It all started on a regular Friday night at Hooters. I used to work there part-time, slinging wings and dealing with all kinds of customers. The place was lively, the wings were hot, and the tips were decent. Little did I know that one night would change the way I looked at my job and the people around me. Let me set the scene for you. The Hooters I worked at was nestled inside the local mall, a popular spot for families, teens, and anyone looking for a good time. The neon lights from the storefronts and the buzzing energy of the place always made the night shifts bearable. On this particular night, things were going as usual. The smell of chicken wings wafted through the air, and the sports games on the TV screens echoed the cheers of patrons. My shift ended at 10 p.m., and I was waiting near the entrance for my ride to pick me up. The neon lights from the mall sign flickered, casting an eerie glow on the deserted parking lot. I was lost in my thoughts, probably contemplating what I would do with my tips, waiting for my ride to show up. That's when I noticed him, a middle-aged man with a disheveled appearance, reeking of booze. He stumbled towards me, and it was clear he had one too many drinks at one of the nearby bars. "Hey, do you work at the Hooters inside?" He slurred, his words barely coherent. His slurred words and the suddenness of his question caught me off guard. I nervously glanced around, wondering if there was anyone else he might be talking to. Yeah, I do," I replied cautiously. A creepy grin spread across his face. "Thought so. You're one of those waitresses, right? The ones in the tiny outfits?" I stammered, trying to avoid eye contact. "Yeah, but I'm off duty now, just waiting for my ride." Ignoring my discomfort, he leaned in closer, his alcohol-laden breath making me cringe. "You're a pretty little thing. How old are you?" Uncomfortable, I tried to divert the conversation. "I'm not here to chat. I'm waiting for my mom to pick me up." But he wasn't deterred. "Moms don't let their kids work at places like this. You're lying." "How old are you really?" I could feel the eyes of other patrons on us, and I hoped someone would intervene. Just as I was getting more and more uneasy, a middle-aged woman passed by the uncomfortable exchange. "Is everything okay over here?" she asked, her concerned eyes fixed on the drunk man. "Yeah, everything's fine. Just wait for my mom. This guy's bothering me, though." The woman shot a disapproving look at the man, who seemed momentarily taken aback. "You should leave her alone. It's not cool to bother someone like that." The man chuckled, waving it off. "I'm just having some fun. She can handle it, can't you?" he said, looking at me with a twisted smirk. The woman shook her head in disapproval, but continued walking, leaving me alone with the man once again. The drunk man stumbled away, laughing to himself, and I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. As I stood there, a mix of fear, shock, and anger washed over me. I couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling that lingered long after he was gone. I contemplated reporting the incident to the mall security, but the man had vanished into the darkness, and I doubted they could do much without more information. Days turned into weeks, and the encounter faded from my mind. I continued working at Hooters, trying to put the incident behind me. That night, as I was heading back to my home and waiting for my ride, as I stood there, scrolling through my phone and trying to distract myself, I heard footsteps approaching from behind. I turned around, expecting to see my ride, but instead, it was the same drunk man. He had a lecherous grin on his face, and my heart raced as he lurched towards me. "You thought you could escape, huh? Can't resist the charm, can you?" he slurred. Panic set in, and I fumbled with my phone, ready to dial 911 if things escalated. But before I could make a move, a security guard patrolling the area approached us. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, eyeing the drunk man. I explained the situation, and the guard told the man to leave. He did, stumbling away into the night, leaving me shaken and relieved. The security guard offered to wait with me until my mom arrived, and I gladly accepted. A few weeks later, I was back at Hooters for another shift. I had almost forgotten about that night, chalking it up to a creepy encounter I'd rather put behind me. But as I went about my waitress duties, I noticed him again. The same man. He was sitting at the bar, leering in my direction. My heart sank, and I immediately informed my manager about the previous incident. The manager approached the man, asking him to leave, but he refused, denying any wrongdoing. It became a he said, she said situation, and the manager, not wanting to escalate further, reluctantly let him stay. I couldn't believe it. How was this possible? I left that job, but that creepy old man wasn't caught, and he still came to Hooters. The unsettling feeling returned, stronger than before, and I realized that the encounter outside the mall was just the beginning of a nightmare that refused to end. One day, as I was scrolling through the local news, I stumbled upon a story. The same man who had harassed me at Hooters had been arrested for a series of disturbing incidents involving young women. It turned out he had a history of predatory behavior and had managed to slip through the cracks of the legal system. I couldn't believe it. The man who had made my nights at Hooters a living hell was finally caught, but not because of what he did to me. He had harmed others, and the thought that I could have been one of his victims sent a chill down my spine. So here I am, sharing my story, not because I want sympathy, but because it's a warning. The world can be a scary place, and sometimes the monsters aren't hiding in the shadows, but sitting at a bar, sipping their drinks with a sinister smile. I left Hooters, but the memory of that unsettling encounter and the twisted truth that followed still linger in my mind, a constant reminder that sometimes real-life horrors are more shocking than anything we could imagine.
I had always heard a lot of stories about creepy individuals terrorizing people in department stores, but I never imagined I would be caught smack dab in the middle of it. So there I was, working at Target in Hanford, California. Just your average American girl busting her ass off for minimum wage. I know the pay is lousy, but I really like this job, I said to Cassie, my coworker. Oh, you think so too, huh? Just wait until you have spent 5 years here like me. We'll see how much you like it then, Cassie responded. Cassie was always so negative. She did her job well enough, but acted as if she was being punished in hell every step of the way. Oh, come on, lighten up, Cassie. Other than the occasional entitled customer, nothing ever really happens here. I smiled cheerily at her, punching her lightly in the shoulder. Anna, sweetheart, you have no idea how wrong you are, Cassie said ominously. And boy, was she right. I had no idea what was coming. I'm not sure when exactly I started noticing the creepy man. One second, everything was going well as usual. Next, I saw this unkempt middle-aged man slinking suspiciously among the aisles. I don't remember ever seeing him buy anything. He would just roam around the shop, his shifty eyes darting to and fro like a frightened mouse or a hawk searching for prey. There was just something wrong with that man. I could feel it. Just looking at him made my skin crawl and filled me with the certainty that he was up to no good. I don't know how I knew, but I just knew. And I said the same to Cassie when we were sorting the shelves together. He is creepy, Cassie. Next time he comes in, I want you to observe him and tell me what you think. Okay, sweetheart, but I really don't think there's anything to worry about. When you have worked this job as long as I have, you come to realize that even weirdos go shopping too. Most of them are pretty harmless, Cassie reassured me. So you think I'm being paranoid? Yeah, definitely, she confirmed. I really wanted to believe her and let the matter rest, but I just couldn't. Even if my mind was ready to rationalize it away, my heart was not willing to participate. It was telling me that my suspicions were justified. I'll try talking to him next time, I told Cassie the following day. You're still on about that? Just let it go, Anna, she replied, clearly exasperated. I'll just say hi and see if he needs help. It's part of our job, right? Fine. Do what you want. I'm done with your paranoia. So I set out to greet our creepy customer. I knew he would be back. And lo and behold, he walked in through the doors on a fine Tuesday morning. I approached him, intending to greet him, but I stopped in my tracks. I hid behind a shelf, my heart beating like a drum in my chest. The man was walking very suspiciously towards the back of the shop. He kept looking behind him, as though checking to see if he was being followed. So naturally, I started following him. He was walking very fast, so I had to quickly maneuver among the aisles, while making sure to stay quiet and keep him in my sight. The whole time, it was dawning on me that if this guy didn't want to be seen, he might not react well to someone seeing him. Suddenly, I feel very alone and afraid in the store that was full of people. I became eerily aware of the rhythmic swish and swish of the overhead fans, the chilly drafts circulating through the store, and the dryness of my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. I was considering giving up and going back to my workstation when the man finally reached his destination. I watched in horror as he slipped into the ladies' restroom. Should I go after him? Should I call someone? Maybe I should scream. But what if he got confused and went in there by mistake? I could be fired if he decided to file a complaint. While my mind was going in circles, the man emerged from the restroom and made a beeline for the exit, passing just a few centimeters from the aisle where I was hidden. The moment he disappeared from my sight, I rushed to the restroom, blood pounding in my head. There was nothing in there. No sign that the restroom had been used. It really seemed like everything was normal. Oh, Anya, you crazy cow. I started thinking to myself before I noticed the roll of clumped toilet paper on top of the cistern. The way it was placed there seemed odd, as though someone had put it there deliberately. But why would... I almost dropped the toilet paper, my fingers shaking wildly. Nestled between the folds of the toilet paper was an unmistakable device with a blinking red light. A camera! He had come to hide a secret camera in the restroom. Immediately, I thought of all the times I had used the restroom and was filled with disgust. Had a camera been watching me as I changed into my uniform? Or when I used the toilet? I felt violated. I felt angry. I stormed to the manager's office with a camera and slammed it onto his desk. I told him everything, from my suspicions to the discovery to my feelings of revulsion. We will get to the bottom of this, the manager said hotly. He was too pissed that something like this had happened under his watch. He sent the security team to review the surveillance footage so the man could be tracked down when the police arrived. Later, I heard that they caught the creep at his home, and he had a bunch of cameras all over his house. But at that point, I didn't care anymore. The damage had already been done. I couldn't use the restroom without feeling like someone was watching me. At times, I could almost imagine that I could feel someone breathing down my neck, leering in the shadows. This story is loosely based on a real event that happened at a Target store in Hadford, California, where 32-year-old Eugenio Rodriguez confessed to placing secret cameras inside a restroom. The camera had not recorded anything when it was discovered, since it was set to live stream mode. Eugenio was caught through surveillance video because the staff members had been noticing him at the store and thought his movements were suspicious. While it looks like the camera was found before anything nefarious had happened, one can never be too sure. The first time I saw the smiling customer, I was on the night shift. He ordered a burger, 2 tacos, no drink. I thought that was odd, but hey, they didn't pay me the big bucks to ponder over customers' food choices, so I served him his meal and pretty much forgot about him. Until he came in the next night. Same elderly-looking man with a weathered and beaten face, wearing a long khaki trench coat and a wide-brimmed hat. Kind of like those detectives in old movies. Everything about him just screamed creepy, especially his smile. It was downright unsettling. His chapped lips were stretching wide into a grin, exposing dirty yellow teeth. He stared at me the entire time, from the moment I brought him his order. The same as the previous night, up until I was back behind the counter. It made my skin crawl. The uniforms we wore were uncomfortable already, without someone staring at you with a creepy smile. "You see that guy over here?" I said to Jake, my shift manager. He ran a hand through his massive beard and grunted. "Which one?" "That geezer at 2 o'clock. I nodded in the direction of the customer. Jake turned, his eyes widened. "What the hell? Why is he smiling like that?" "You tell me. He came here last night too. Same creepy smile. If he comes here again, I'm not serving him," I declared. Jake sighed, rubbing his temples. "You know the drill, Mary. We have to serve all our customers." "I know," I said, defeated. For the rest of my shift, I tried to stay as far away from Mr. Smile as I possibly could. By the time I finished, he was gone, and that filled me with relief. Tension I hadn't realized I had been holding eased out of my body. I just prayed that would be the last time the customer would grace our fine establishment. The gods must have been on vacation, or they just didn't like me, because like clockwork, Mr. Smile came back again the next night. Same order as usual, and I was the one who had to serve it to him. His bloodshot eyes bore into me like a drill, as I thought he could see something in me that other people couldn't see. As though he was having secret thoughts about me. I felt fear wash over me like a cold downpour. I was used to being stared at. After all, it came with the job. Hell, I had even a couple of customers get a little too handsy after a few drinks. That I could deal with. But that dead-eyed stare, that creepy smile, it made me feel like prey, prancing stupidly in front of a predator. I didn't like the feeling at all. "This," I muttered under my breath the moment I got back to the counter. "Jake, I'm going home," I announced as I grabbed my purse and threw a coat over my skimpy uniform. "What do you mean? You still have 3 hours left in your shift, Mary." "I got a headache. Gotta run." I cut him off and rushed out. "Gen Z rascals!" Jake grumbled behind me, but I was already gone. I needed to be out of there. Mr. Smiles watched me leave, smiling still. To my utter terror, he got up when I reached the door. I panicked. I could have just gone back inside where it was safe. Instead, I fled into the darkness like a frightened bunny. My high-heeled shoes clicked against the pavement as I ran, the sound magnified by the dead silence of the early morning. I don't know if Mr. Smiles followed or not. I didn't dare look back. I imagined that if I did look, I would be petrified by his unnatural smile. So I fled, without any sense of direction. I just felt that I was in danger, irrational as the feeling may have been. I must have been running for 15 minutes before I was able to calm down enough to take a look around. By some luck, I had actually ended up in my neighborhood. My apartment was just a block away. The relief that flooded through me when I was walking through my door was almost overwhelming. I had made it home. I peered through my blinds to confirm that Mr. Smiles hadn't actually followed me, and the blood froze in my veins. Right outside, under a streetlight, was a dark silhouette. His features were obstructed by the darkness, but I thought I saw the glint of a yellow smile. But when I blinked, he was gone. Maybe I had imagined it. I tried to reassure myself, but my quivering body betrayed me. The fear that I felt, the absolute terror that Mr. Smiles was outside and any second would break in. I don't know how I was able to fall asleep that night. I just remembered the horrible nightmares that plagued me, dark dreams of smiling monsters and jagged knives. I would wake up out of breath and sweating, then fall asleep only to wake up again. By the time the day came, I was exhausted. I took a quick look out the window, but there was no one there. Even if Mr. Smiles had really been there the night before, I doubt he would have stuck around until morning. I showered quickly and took an Uber to the Hooters where I worked. I was going to apologize to Jake, then I would tell him I was quitting. When I walked in, the mood was somber. Everyone was huddled together, staring up at the TV where the news was reporting. The victim is 22 years old, Lisa Graham, and as we speak, she is in ICU. The screen shifted to an image of a blonde-haired girl lying on a stretcher, flecks of blood on her white blouse. She looked frightened, like me. Authorities have the suspect in custody, an unidentified male who was seen by witnesses stabbing Miss Graham with a switchblade in the early hours of the morning. The suspect did not offer any resistance when he was arrested. I turned the broadcast off. I knew what was coming. Jake looked at me in horror as Mr. Smiles' face came on the screen. He was in cuffs, being led into one of the waiting police cruisers. The creepy yellow smile was still plastered onto his face. I stared back at Jake in silence, sharing in the horror of our realization of what could have been.